At our family reunion, I gave a toast. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud, just honest. I raised my glass and said, "It's funny how the people who left Grandpa alone in hospice are now putting his name on vacation homes and real estate LLCs." Silence. Knives paused over steak. Wine stopped midair. I smiled, sat down, and ate my salad like nothing happened. The next morning, I was removed from the family group chat. A week later, I received a legal notice. I'd been formally cut out of the Reynolds family trust. My name is Amelia. I'm 39, unmarried, no kids, just spreadsheets, silence, and money I don't talk about. I was the only one who visited Grandpa during the last year of his life. While everyone else sent emojis or excuses, I sat beside him every Sunday. Held his hand when he forgot my name. Fed him soup when the nurses were too busy. The others, they had their reasons. Uncle Marcus was too busy with the new business. The business that was supposed to make him millions. The business that required him to golf 3 times a week with potential investors. The business that somehow left him no time for a 20-minute drive to see his dying father. Aunt Linda's back was acting up again. The same back that miraculously healed every time there was a wine tasting or charity gala. The same back that allowed her to redecorate her entire house, but prevented her from sitting in a hospital chair. Cousin Jake was traveling for work. Work that took him to Cabo Aspen and the French Riviera. Work that required extensive Instagram documentation, but no cell phone service when I called about Grandpa's emergencies. Sarah had the kids to think about. The same kids she shipped off to boarding school so she could focus on her yoga retreats and wine club. The same kids she saw every other weekend when it didn't conflict with her social calendar. The same kids who asked me why they never met their great-grandfather and why Mommy was always too busy for family things. But they all found time for the family group chat. Sharing memes, planning the next reunion, discussing what to do with Grandpa's assets while he was still breathing. The messages were relentless. "Marcus, Dad's property taxes are insane. We need to do something about this. Linda, has anyone checked if there's a reverse mortgage? We should look into that. Jake, the land alone is worth more than the house. Just saying. Sarah, we could probably get $2 million easy. Split 4 ways, that's $500K each. Marcus, make that 5 ways. Don't forget Mom's sister gets a share. Jake, wait. Why does she get anything she hasn't visited in years? Linda, none of us have visited much, but we're still family. Sarah, exactly. Blood is thicker than water. They were dividing inheritance while I was helping Grandpa remember his own name. I remember one particular Sunday. Grandpa was having a bad day. Couldn't remember where he was. Kept asking for his wife who'd been gone 10 years. I was feeding him applesauce when my phone buzzed. A message from Jake in the family chat. Anyone know if the old man updated his will recently, asking for a friend? 17 laughing emojis followed. Marcus replied, "Why you planning to bump him off?" More laughter. Linda, Jake, you're terrible, but seriously, has anyone seen the will? Sarah, I think it's in the house somewhere. We should probably look for it. Jake, road trip. We can search the house and call it a family visit. Marcus, genius. We'll bring flowers, make it look good. I turned my phone face down and kept feeding Grandpa, but the messages kept coming. Later that day, found it. The will is from 1987. Everything goes to surviving family members in equal shares. What about the trust fund? There's a trust fund. Dad mentioned it once. Something about offshore accounts. How much? No idea, but if it's offshore, it's probably significant. We need to find those documents. I'll check the house next time I'm there. When's the last time you were there? Christmas 2 years ago. Same. I think I went last Easter, or was that the year before? Doesn't matter. We'll all go together. Make it a family thing. They never went. But the planning continued. 3 months before Grandpa died, they started a separate group chat. Called it Reynolds Estate Planning. I wasn't included. I found out about it when Jake accidentally sent a message to the main chat. The architect says we can fit 12 luxury cabins on the back 40. Premium pricing year-round. Delete that message. Too late. Amelia's already seen it. It's fine. She's not a trustee anymore anyway. When did we vote her out? Last week. You weren't paying attention. Oh, right. The whole difficult family member thing. Exactly. She's too emotional about Dad. It's unhealthy. Plus, she's single. What does she need with a family estate? She should focus on finding a husband. Or getting therapy. Both. Reading those messages while sitting beside Grandpa's bed. While he slept fitfully. While machines beeped and nurses ignored his call button. That's when I realized they weren't just planning to exclude me. They were planning to erase me. The final insult came a week before Grandpa died. I was helping him with physical therapy when my phone rang. Linda. Amelia, honey, we need to talk. I'm with Grandpa. That's actually what I wanted to discuss. The family thinks, well, we think you're getting too attached. Too attached to my grandfather. It's not healthy, sweetheart. You're spending all your time with a dying man. You're missing out on life. I'm not missing out on anything. When's the last time you went on a date? I don't see how that's relevant. It's relevant because you're using Dad as an excuse to avoid living your own life. I almost hung up. We think it would be best if you took a break from visiting. Let us handle things for a while. Handle things. We've hired a private nurse, someone professional, someone who won't get emotionally involved. You want me to stop visiting my grandfather. We want you to take care of yourself, and we think Dad would want that too. Have you asked him? He's not really capable of making those decisions anymore. He's sitting right here, Linda. He can hear you. Put him on the phone. I held the phone to Grandpa's ear. Dad, it's Linda. How are you feeling? Grandpa looked confused. Linda, is that my daughter? Yes, Dad, it's me. I don't have a daughter named Linda. Silence. Dad, it's me, your daughter, Linda. I don't have any daughters. I have a granddaughter who visits me. Sweet girl. Always brings me applesauce. Dad, you have 3 children, Marcus, Linda, and Patricia. I don't know those people. I took the phone back. Maybe you should visit more often, I said. Help him remember. That's not fair, Amelia. Neither is hiring a stranger to replace his family. We're not replacing anyone. We're being practical. Practical. Dad doesn't know us anymore. Why should we torture ourselves sitting beside someone who can't even remember our names? Because he's your father. He's already gone, Amelia. You're just prolonging the inevitable. For him or for you. What's that supposed to mean? I mean, you're in a hurry to bury him so you can dig up his assets. That's a horrible thing to say. But it's true. We'll discuss this at the next family meeting. The one I'm not invited to. The one where we make decisions about Dad's care. Without consulting Dad. Without consulting people who aren't thinking clearly. She hung up. I looked at Grandpa. He was staring at me with the clearest eyes I'd seen in weeks. They don't want me anymore, he said. They never did, I replied. But you do. I do. He smiled. Then I still have family. That was the last coherent conversation we had. 2 days later, the private nurse showed up. A stern woman who treated Grandpa like a medical case instead of a person. I was asked to leave. Family visiting hours are now restricted, she said. 2 hours on weekends, by appointment only. I'm his granddaughter. I have my instructions. From who? The family representatives, Mr. Marcus Reynolds and Mrs. Linda Walsh. I'm family too. I'm sorry, I can only allow approved visitors. Approved by who? The people paying my salary. I left. But I came back every day. Sat in the parking lot. Watched through the window. The private nurse read magazines. Ignored Grandpa's calls for help. fed him processed food instead of the homemade soup I'd been bringing. He died alone, while she was in the hallway flirting with a doctor. I was in the parking lot when the monitors started beeping. I ran inside, held his hand as he slipped away. The last thing he said was, "Don't let them win." The funeral was a performance. Marcus gave a eulogy about a loving father who lived for his family. Linda cried dramatically into tissues that matched her outfit. Jake posted selfies at the graveside with the caption, "Remembering a great man." Sarah brought her kids who she'd never allowed to meet Grandpa when he was alive. They all talked about memories that never happened. "Remember when Dad taught us to fish? What about those camping trips? He always said family was the most important thing." I sat in the back, said nothing, but I was listening, and I was recording every lie, every fabricated memory, every crocodile tear. Because Grandpa was right, I wasn't going to let them win. There was one thing everyone had their eye on. Grandpa's house, a 7-bedroom colonial on 5 acres, original hardwood floors, a stone fireplace, a family orchard behind the barn, worth about $2 million, maybe more. The plan: sell it, split the profits, turn the land into a luxury vacation retreat called Reynolds Grove. They even had a logo, with Grandpa's signature, digitized without permission. I found out about the logo from Marcus's Facebook post. "Excited to announce our new family venture, Reynolds Grove, where legacy meets luxury." The post had hundreds of likes. Comments poured in from their friends. "Your grandfather would be so proud. What a beautiful way to honor his memory. Can't wait to book our first stay." The comments were nauseating. Linda wrote, "Grandpa would be so proud." Sarah added, "This is exactly what he would have wanted." Jake posted a photo of architectural plans. Phase 1 breaks ground next spring. But the worst part, the timestamp. Grandpa was still alive when they posted this. Still asking for his wife. Still wondering why no one visited. The business plan was detailed. 12 luxury cabins, a spa, a restaurant called Reynolds Table, gift shop selling authentic family recipes. But here's what really made my blood boil. The pricing. Premium family suite, $800 night. Experience authentic family traditions in our grandfather's restored bedroom. His bedroom, where he died alone. Heritage dining experience, 150 person. Enjoy a 5-course meal featuring recipes passed down through generations. What recipes? The ones none of them knew. The ones Grandma took to her grave. Legacy orchard tour, 75 person. Walk through our family orchard and hear stories of 4 generations. Stories they made up. An orchard they'd let die. They were charging strangers to experience the family warmth they'd never given their own grandfather. The marketing materials were worse. Experience the warmth of family tradition at Reynolds Grove, where 4 generations of memories meet modern luxury. 4 generations. None of them had lived at the house for more than a summer. Enjoy grandmother's famous apple pie recipe in our farm-to-table restaurant. Grandmother's recipe. She died when I was 12. I doubt any of them remembered what she looked like, let alone how she baked. Take a sunset horseback ride through the family orchard where love has grown for over 50 years. The orchard. The one that had been dying for a decade because no one maintained it. The one where Marcus had dumped his construction debris. They were selling a fantasy built on a foundation of lies. But the final straw was the promotional video. Jake hired a film crew, professional cameras, drone shots, the whole production. The video opened with Marcus walking through the empty house, touching furniture like it held sacred memories. "This is where I learned to be a man," he said, standing in the kitchen. "Where my father taught me the value of hard work. The same kitchen where Grandpa had fallen and lay on the floor for 3 hours because no one answered his emergency calls." Linda appeared next, sitting in Grandpa's chair. I can still hear his laughter echoing through these halls, the same halls she hadn't walked through in 5 years. Jake stood in the orchard, shaking his head with fake nostalgia. Every summer we'd help Grandpa pick apples. He said the secret was patience. The same Jake who'd called the orchard a waste of good land and suggested paving it for parking. Sarah was filmed in the master bedroom touching the quilt with reverence. This is where love lived, where family was everything. The same room where Grandpa had died alone while she was on vacation in Europe. The video ended with all of them standing together, arms linked, staring at the sunset. Reynolds Grove, Marcus said in voiceover. Where your family's legacy begins. 75,000 views in the first week. I watched it 7 times. Each viewing made me angrier. But anger wasn't enough. I needed proof. They invited all trustees to a private meeting at the country club. I didn't get the invite. They thought they'd cut me out quietly. They forgot who Grandpa really trusted. The day of the meeting, I walked into the country club boardroom in a gray suit and low heels. No makeup. No statement bag. Just presence. My aunt whispered, "This is for family only." I smiled. I'm aware. Everyone stared. No one said hello. Marcus cleared his throat. "Amelia, I think there's been a misunderstanding. This meeting is for the trust beneficiaries. I see that," I said, taking a seat at the far end of the table. Linda leaned forward. "Sweetheart, you know we had to make some difficult decisions. But it's better this way. You're so young, so focused on your career. You don't need the burden of family property." Jake nodded. "Plus, this way you can focus on finding someone special. Starting your own family," Sarah chimed in. "We're actually doing you a favor. Property management is such a headache." She adjusted her designer handbag. "Plus, you know how overwhelming big decisions can be for single women." The condescension dripped like honey. I folded my hands, said nothing. The estate attorney stood up, flustered. "Before we proceed with the proposed sale of the Reynolds property, we need to acknowledge a change in ownership." Silence. "As of last Thursday, the full deed has been transferred to Miss Amelia Green." Gasps, dropped forks. A choked laugh from Jake, who had already picked out his suite. Marcus snapped. "You bought the house with what money?" I tilted my head. "With what Grandpa left me. Quietly. In an account none of you bothered to ask about." "That's impossible," Linda said. "We would have known about any major transfers. Would you?" I asked. "Like you knew about his pain medication running out, or his doctor's appointments, or the fact that he stopped eating for 3 days because the nursing staff was understaffed." "We were busy," Sarah said weakly. "With what, planning your vacation retreat?" Jake leaned back. "Look, we can work something out. Family discount. You can keep the house, we'll take the land. Everyone wins." I almost laughed. "Everyone wins. It's a fair compromise," Marcus said. "You get the sentimental value, we get the business opportunity." "The business opportunity," I repeated. "Is that what you call it?" Linda tried a different approach. "Amelia, honey, we know you're upset, but we're family. We can fix this. Can we?" I asked. "Because I remember when I called you about Grandpa's fall. You said you'd come by that weekend. That was 6 months ago. I had the flu," she said. "For 6 months. Look," Marcus said, his voice getting harder. "This is getting out of hand. We can contest the transfer. Prove he wasn't of sound mind." "Go ahead," I said. "I have recordings." The room went quiet. "What recordings?" Sarah asked. "Every conversation with Grandpa. Every lucid moment. Every time he asked why his family didn't visit. Every time he cried because he thought you'd all forgotten him." "You recorded our grandfather without permission." Jake looked horrified. "I recorded a lonely old man who wanted to remember his family. The family that was too busy planning his funeral to visit his bedside." I stood. "You removed me from the family, so I removed the family from the house. My voice never rose. It didn't need to. You don't get to rewrite a legacy you never showed up for. The silence was deafening. I could hear the air conditioning humming. Someone's stomach growling. The tick of the antique clock on the wall. Then Marcus exploded. "This is insane. You can't just steal our inheritance." His face turned red. Veins popped on his forehead. "Your inheritance?" I asked. "What inheritance? The house you haven't visited in years? The land you were planning to destroy? It's family property." Spit flew from his mouth. "Family." I laughed. The sound echoed in the silent room. "You mean the family that kicked me out of the group chat? The family that hired a nurse to keep me away from my dying grandfather?" Linda stood up, shaking. Her chair scraped against the floor. "We did what we thought was best. Best for who? For Grandpa who died alone, or for you who couldn't be bothered to hold his hand? We were protecting him. From what? From the one person who actually cared about him." Jake slammed his fist on the table. The water glasses jumped. "You manipulated him. You took advantage of a sick old man. I took advantage." I pulled out my phone. The screen lit up my face. "Would you like to hear some recordings?" The color drained from their faces like someone had pulled a plug. "What recordings?" Sarah whispered. "Let's start with last Christmas, when you all promised to visit and then canceled at the last minute." I pressed play. Grandpa's voice filled the room, weak but clear. Everyone froze. "She said she'd come for Christmas dinner, but nobody came, just me and the nurses. They gave me pudding from a cup." Linda's hand flew to her mouth. The recording continued. "I don't understand why my family doesn't visit anymore. Did I do something wrong?" You could hear him crying softly in the background. Linda started crying, real tears this time. "Turn it off." "There's more," I said. "Would you like to hear the one where he asks why his children don't love him anymore?" "Stop," Marcus said, his voice cracked. "Or the one where he's confused about why strangers are making decisions about his care." "Please," Sarah begged. Her designer handbag slipped from her lap. "My personal favorite is from 2 weeks before he died, when he asked me if his family was planning his funeral while he was still alive." The room was so quiet you could hear people breathing. I paused the recording. "Were you?" I asked. No one answered. Jake was staring at his hands. "Because I heard that conversation too." "Jake, you called the funeral home on speakerphone while I was visiting Grandpa. Remember, you thought he was asleep." Jake's face went white. You were listening. I was feeding him soup," I said. "You asked about pre-planning services while he was 3 feet away from you." I scrolled through my phone. The screen glowed. "And Marcus, that phone call to the lawyer about expediting the will reading. You made it in the hospital parking lot. I was walking to my car. You didn't see me." "That's not," Marcus started. "Sarah, when you called the estate sale company, you were standing outside Grandpa's room. I was inside with him. He heard every word. We were being practical." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "And the best part," I said, "is what Grandpa said after each of those calls." I played another recording, Grandpa's voice weak but clear. "They're planning my funeral, aren't they, while I'm still here? I told them you were just confused, Grandpa. But you weren't, were you?" "No, sweetheart. I hear everything. They think I don't, but I do. They're waiting for me to die." The room was silent except for the air conditioning. Linda was sobbing now, mascara running down her cheeks. "We didn't know he could hear, didn't you?" I asked. Because when Sarah called him a burden on the phone with her husband, he repeated those exact words to me the next day. Sarah went pale. When Linda told her book club that some people just don't know when to let go, he asked me if I thought he was holding everyone back. "We never meant," Linda whispered. And when Marcus told his golf buddies that he was waiting for the old man to cash in his chips, Grandpa asked me what that meant. I played the final recording. It was Grandpa's voice, from the day before he died. They don't love me anymore, do they? They're just waiting for me to die so they can have my house. The words hung in the air like smoke from a fire. Marcus looked around the room desperately. He was confused. He didn't understand what he was hearing. Didn't he? I asked. Because he understood enough to change his will. He understood enough to set up a separate account. He understood enough to know who really cared about him. We weren't celebrating his death, Marcus protested. Weren't you? Because when you thought no one was listening, you had very different conversations. We were grieving. Were you? Because grief doesn't usually involve celebrating inheritance windfalls. Linda was sobbing now. We loved him. Did you? I asked. Because love isn't what I heard in those phone calls. Love isn't what Grandpa heard either. The truth was finally out. No more lies, no more excuses. Jake tried one last desperate move. Even if all of that's true, it doesn't give you the right to steal everything. Steal. I stood up. My chair didn't make a sound. I didn't steal anything. I inherited it. From a man who knew exactly who his real family was. We're his real family. Are you? I asked. Because real family shows up. Real family holds hands. Real family doesn't celebrate death. I gathered my things, phone, purse, keys, but here's the beautiful part, I said. You don't have to take my word for it. I held up my phone. The screen reflected the overhead lights. I'm uploading all of these recordings to YouTube, tonight. Let the world decide who Grandpa's real family was. The panic in their eyes was perfect, pure terror. You can't do that. Watch me. It's illegal. Is it? I checked with a lawyer. One-party consent state, perfectly legal. We'll sue you. With what money? I thought you were all struggling financially. The room erupted in chaos, voices overlapping, chairs scraping, papers rustling, Marcus screaming about lawyers, Linda threatening to contest the will, Jake demanding I hand over the recordings, Sarah begging me to think about the children. I walked to the door. My heels clicked on the marble floor. I turned back. Oh, and one more thing, I said. The promotional video for Reynolds Grove. The one with 75,000 views. I sent copies of these recordings to everyone who liked and shared it. Their faces went from panic to horror. Complete, absolute horror. People love a good story, I said. Especially when it involves fake family values and real greed. I opened the door. The hallway light spilled in. Good luck with your legacy business. I walked out. The door closed behind me with a soft click, and for the first time in months I smiled. But the story doesn't end there. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in Grandpa's old study when my phone rang. Unknown number. Miss Green, this is Jennifer Walsh from Walsh Properties. I represent a client interested in purchasing your property. I leaned back in Grandpa's chair. I'm not selling. My client is prepared to offer $4 million, cash, no inspections. Still not selling. $5 million. I smiled. Let me guess. Your client wouldn't happen to be named Reynolds. Silence. $6 million, she said finally. Tell your client. I said that the house isn't for sale, but I am accepting applications for groundskeeping positions, minimum wage, no benefits, and they'd have to pass a background check. I hung up. The next day I got 7 more calls, all from different real estate agents, all representing anonymous clients, willing to pay above market value. I stopped answering, but I did start answering the door, because Marcus showed up that weekend, alone, looking older than I remembered. Amelia, he said, we need to talk. I stood in the doorway, didn't invite him in. The family's struggling, he said. Sarah's kids need college money. Jake's business is failing. Linda's husband is sick. I see. We made mistakes, but we're still family. Are we? He looked past me into the house. This place is too big for one person. It wasn't too big for Grandpa. Grandpa had a family. I smiled. So did I, until you removed me from it. He shifted uncomfortably. That was Linda's idea. She thought you'd be better off without all the family drama. How considerate. Look, he said. What if we made you a partner equal shares? You keep the house, we develop the land. Everyone wins. Everyone wins, I repeated. Seems to be your favorite phrase. He waited. The answer is no, I said. Amelia, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. I'm the only one who's been reasonable for the past year. I started to close the door. Wait, he said. What do you want? I paused. I want Grandpa to have visitors every Sunday, like clockwork. I want family dinners that aren't about dividing assets. I want phone calls that aren't about business opportunities. We can do that. Can you? I asked. Because you had a whole year to prove it. We can change. Can you? He looked tired. What would it take? I thought about it. Nothing you can give me. Try us. I smiled. I want you to love an old man who forgets your name. I want you to sit beside a hospital bed and hold hands that don't squeeze back. I want you to show up when there's nothing in it for you. We can learn. Can you? I asked. Because I'm still learning too. He frowned. What do you mean? I mean, I'm not done with the family business. What family business? I stepped back. The one that starts with remembering who we used to be. I don't understand. You will, I said, when you're ready to earn it. I closed the door, left him standing on the porch, and for the first time in years I felt like maybe the Reynolds name still meant something, but only to the people willing to remember what it used to stand for. The question is, how long are they willing to wait? And what exactly am I planning next? Even I don't know yet, but I have a feeling it's going to be interesting.